Welcome to the Bitcoin Business Podcast put on by Sovereign. I'm your host, Brandon Karpolis. And today I have with me someone who is deeply involved in a movement that's near and dear to my heart, which is the a decentralized marketplace. Specifically, the I've got involved through Nostr. Now, that's not to say that any people can't come through other places, but a lot of the personalities, vendors, people selling are on Nostr, and Nostr is just kind of the perfect protocol to encourage a decentralized market to support it basically as the protocol to enable the platforms that are being built out. And Eric is someone who is building on that space with others, and we're going to talk about all that today. So, welcome, Eric. Thank you for the work you're doing, and why don't you talk about the work you're doing? I know last time we were going to schedule a this recording back in September or October, and I know you said you weren't ready, you weren't comfortable, given the stage of where things were at. So why don't you talk about the marketplace, what's actually out there, what are the different things on Nostr, what are you specifically working on, and your journey to getting here today, and we'll start there.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Obviously a fan of the show, and we support similar movements. So, Conduit is one team of several teams building on what's known as Gamma Marketplaces, which is an extension of NIP99 marketplaces on Nostr. And so, what NIP99 is the baseline specification where this is classified listings on Nostr. So think Craigslist, but Nosterized. And what these different teams have done is we've converged on this specification and added sort of superpowers to these Craigslist style listings that would enable more e-commerce style features. And the idea is basically that if we can converge on a shared specification similar to how Nostr does this for social events, then we can create a decentralized product pool that has no central point of failure, and anybody can access anybody's store kind of from anywhere. And there's not just one service provider. Hopefully, in this new world, there's going to be many, and there's already several. Like I said, I founded Conduit, and we've been working hard on that. There's also Plebeian Market, who is actually on the cusp of merging to NIP99. They were on a different spec before. Shopstr, obviously, you've got Calvadev in there, who's kind of been the leader in integrating the NIP99 spec and actually getting people to post products on there. There's another developer named Sync Cypherspace. He's got great tooling to get your products up there already. So the cool bit is that already you can post something on Shopstr and see it on Conduit. You can post something on Cypherspace and see it on Shopstr, and vice versa. And that's kind of the goal, is this full interoperability. And yeah, you mentioned I wasn't ready to come on before because I don't love talking about stuff before it's at least a minimum amount of realness. You can hang out with people and talk about shared specifications, and there's a lot of talk out there on Nostr about what we're gonna do, but I wanted to at least get an alpha released before I came on, and I'm happy that you were patient enough for me to do that. Oh,
Sure. So I took a look at the site, and I saw some listings on there. And so is it live? Could I purchase something, check out, get it delivered, or is it
yeah, let's. It is live, and we're
okay?
seeing listings on Conduit. Right now, I would say that it would be a little bit troublesome to actually do the full checkout flow, and that's our next focus in development. But this requires a little bit of participation, either from other people that are sharing the spec to receive certain types of order events, or uh, and this is Conduit's next phase of development is we have to create the merchant side of things as well. So we have basically there's two sides of the equation in any e-commerce. There's the shoppers and the sellers. And so, what we've built Conduit Market is basically the shopper side of things. And we're relying on others, specifically in this case, Shopstr and Cypherspace and soon to be Plebeian to, post products to the pool. Right now, we don't have functionality for merchants to post products to the pool from Conduit. When the next product that we're releasing that's currently in development is the Conduit merchant portal so that we can have, our version of people uh, posting to the product pool from a portal that is kind of like their uh, terminal in the cloud, for lack of a better way to put it.
Sure. So you think of these sort of old systems like eBay, or I don't even say old systems, they're still currently being used quite a bit. You have Amazon, and these are highly centralized systems
I
where
like calling them legacy, by the way. I think we can call them legacy.
legacy,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, yeah. And let's be honest. I mean, there's a ton of value in being. I mean, if I get something from Amazon and it's defective, or I want to return it, or some idiot delivery person left it on the street on like one of the busiest streets in Chicago, and someone took it off my porch, or out from, I don't even have a porch, out from the front of my door, they'll refund it, or they'll send you a new product, or they'll do something. And same with eBay, they have sort of a trust system where they're kind of the centralized enforcer, if you will,
Right.
of making sure this gets there. And if you don't deliver, you're never getting on the site again, and that sort of thing. So how do you handle that? Or do you have any centralized control over the merchant customer relationship, and how do you think about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, no, we don't. We can't, and that's just not how the protocol is built. But that does come with some trade offs. So, uh, you know, I think one of the things we have to be honest about is that these centralized sites do have a hell of a pitch right now. Like all the pain points that you just described are things that they sell to people. But in some way, shape, or form, my belief is that we're all paying for it, and as a kind of a collective tax. And so how do we pay for that? Well, with Amazon, we're clearly being manipulated to see certain things and buy certain things. And you can see the quality of the products that you're getting, despite the fact that you could, return them. Um, the quality and the ability to find things is just not uh, what you would hope
It's
for it to
awful.
be. It's awful. It's absolutely awful, and the products are
Yeah, I mean,
crap.
I can't tell you how many times I've had to go to like page 3 or keep
Yeah,
scrolling, and it's like, I know this product sucks.
yeah,
And then, I mean, they even put it on, I to Amazon's credit, I actually appreciate it. They're like, Amazon's top pick, or
yeah,
number one recommended. So like they're telling you basically like this is being shoved in your face.
yeah.
So I actually kind of appreciate that. But I find myself so many times on like page 2 or page 3 of the search results to just find a quality product that, stuff I know about. Some stuff, it's, whatever, I just need to get it quickly, I don't really care. But things I know about, things I care about, I find myself sifting way down the list, and having to do that. So I'm already doing that part on my own
Yeah, exactly. And
anyways.
that's like not that's not the internet that I think we all envisioned. Um, it was supposed to make things more convenient, and now there's like a lot of mental overhead to even to get to the point where you want to buy something. Geez, by the time you get into page 3, you might as well have just sought out the merchant directly that you wanted to support. But and then so now are we talking about someone on Shopify maybe, but then that merchant on Shopify also has some frictions. They pay a lot to be on that site. They're paying credit card processing fees and different things. All of these costs are then passed down to the consumer. And also in the legacy model, what I'm going to fight to start calling a legacy model is uh, these sites are essentially honeypots for someone who would or an administration that would want to arbitrarily limit rights and freedoms of certain uh, types of merchants that it's not the flavor of the current administration to like certain products. So those things, happen to lose, certain services that are essential for them to run their business. And, this layer that we're all trying to collectively create here kind of puts an immune system in place against that type of centralized control. Um, that's not to say like I'm not personally, going to go like rah, like full on anti-government or whatever, but these technologies, what I think is beautiful about them is that they level the playing field in terms of uh, our rights and freedoms actually having teeth. Depending on who's in power, it shouldn't matter. These things should have there should be a lot of friction to be able to take those things away.
Yeah, I love the way you phrase that, and it's true with everything in this space. It's all trade. It's trade-offs all the way down, right? There's no silver bullet. So the centralized fact of that Amazon will swap out my defective water filter or give me a new I don't know. Give me a new chair or something that never showed up or
Yeah,
whatever is all well and good, but that comes at the cost. Like, I mean, I remember during COVID mania that there were tons of books that weren't making it on Amazon. There was a well-known skeptic out there, a guy named Alex Berenson, who I'm sure many of the people in the Bitcoin space were aware of. He was kind of the most prominent Twitter voice, I would say, in pushing back against the narrative and everything. And his book was initially banned on Amazon, and he only ended up getting listed on Amazon because Elon Musk tweeted something saying that this is a travesty. Why are we censoring this book? Blah blah blah. And Amazon got a flood of complaints and angry Twitter mob people and kind of had to relent at that point. But if Elon Musk had tweeted nothing, that book would have never made it on Amazon. And so that's one thing
right.
right there where it's like you're yeah, okay, great. You get your defective item replaced, but you don't get access to some of these other products that people are putting out there. And I think what you're saying, okay, you're not rah-rah anti-government, but I mean, this was something that happened 4 years ago. Like,
Right.
this is recent memory of a big, giant um, seller marketplace being leaned on, and
Targeting people. Yeah.
yeah, and stepping in and specifically saying we're not
Yeah.
releasing this. I went to look for a book recently, and I am embarrassed. I'm completely forgetting what it was, but it was a well-known author who was kind of magically suicided, as many of these guys are, for writing about all of the sort of CIA lunacy in the 80s and 90s and the kind of octopus murders type that world and that whole connection. And his book is just straight up not on there. You just can't find it, and I frankly couldn't find it anywhere on the internet. But that was the number one place I went to, was to Amazon to look for it. It's just not there. And
And fortunately,
yeah,
like right now, like there's a couple things in the situations that you just described there. Number one is you've got an appeal to another power to solve the problems of a, a different centralized power. So I guess great that Elon Musk was able to do that for that author, but why should we have to appeal to another authority to make that happen? Right?
of
That's
course.
not the
Yep.
world that we want to live in. We want to have like some baseline uh, freedoms that everyone can express without having to appeal to an Elon Musk. I mean, in this case, like, great for him to do that, and love him or hate him, there is he seems to be a good counterforce for a lot of the things that have been going on. But that can eventually get corrupted. Like the principle is not like appeal to a different central authority. It's like let's not have these things in the first place. um the other bit about Amazon sort of being able to replace these things, well, in my mind they're kind of papering over low quality uh, merchants by being able to do this. It, there's some in the new model as opposed to legacy model we're putting a lot more responsibility kind of where it should be, which is with the merchant. And that's not to say that we're not here to support merchants, but if we got unfiltered, true reputations being built on a protocol level that are truly sovereign, then it's the merchant's responsibility to build their circle and their reputation appropriately. Um, you
I
know,
think that's a yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
no, that was pretty much it. Go for it.
Yeah, I was going to say that 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 view of having high quality goods for sale, I mean, that is Amazon, eBay, that's their business model, is to just get people to buy something quickly, the high velocity trash economy, get some get some thing that was probably poorly constructed and charge 400% more from it, and then basically there's going to be some returns, there's going to be some problems, and let's be honest, the other thing too is it's just completely nameless and faceless. I have no idea who my vendor is. I have no idea what I'm buying from. It's just, and not that there shouldn't be big companies making stuff. I mean, listen, we had giant corporations in this country that were making quality products, and there's nothing wrong with you not knowing someone at DeWalt
Sure.
uh, uh, or Ford Motor Company. Like, you don't need to know someone to buy a car. It should just be
But they have a
good.
brand.
But
They have a
they
brand
have a
that you
brand.
trust. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And to that point, I think so many people today just get on these sites and buy whatever and they don't care. And it's this sort of consumerism, just put it on the credit card, it doesn't even matter, spend, spend, spend type mentality. And that's not to say that merchants aren't going to go on and create a great product and get a ton of sales, but there is, to your point, I think there is an element of quality and a relationship you have, which I've talked a lot about on this podcast with a lot of vendors, is you want a good relationship with your customer. You want to know that they appreciate the quality of your goods, and there is value in that as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're touching on like there is a skin in the game element for the shopper as well. Like right now, Amazon has sort of taken that away. Like I can buy like 6 products and return 5 of them and just kind of like shop from my house, and that's like incredibly inefficient. I don't, yeah, I think this is where libertarians and environmentalists might have some common ground here. It's like, well, that shouldn't be a thing. You shouldn't be able to do that like that. Like I don't have to do the 3 pages of research. It's like, well, I could just buy all 3 pages, if I've got the credit for it, and then return 2.5 of them. um but that's not efficient. Like think about the amount of shipping and packaging and just the amount of people employed to make that happen. That's obviously being subsidized somehow. Like that's just completely unsustainable. um
Yeah, it's being subsidized by ads and credit card fees
the credit
is,
card fees, and,
and
and probably you get to the root of it, fiat money. That's
yeah,
right,
of
right?
course.
Like um but aside from all that, like that skin in the game for the shopper is also important too. Like what we're trying to do with these sort of protocol level uh freedom tech freedom technologies is scale up kind of like the old school version of the way things used to be. You used to talk to someone older, like shake someone's hand, look them in the eye, whatever. Nostr is the closest. This is what excites me so much about Nostr. Nostr is the closest thing that we've ever built to like mimic those old school kind of values and scale them in a way that actually competes with some of these centralized services. Because again, you're just putting skin back into the game, where in some of the other, like whatever you want to call it, the older legacy web models, is that we've kind of um, you could throw away your reputation, you could buy a reputation. Nostr doesn't really let you do that. Um, and that to me is actually exciting. There's a lot of friction at first, but once we figure out how to scale things, like we're able to capture. Um, I think we're able to recapture the market by spreading out the technology, uh, to many people. So maybe there's not going to be as many massive Amazons or uh, Shopify's or whatever. But I personally think that that's okay. I think there's going to be enough people, providing services in this market with less monopolistic type tendencies, so that more people can make an honest living rather than, having this capital um, converging to just a few big players, and then all the bad things that come with that power centralizing around on those people.
Yeah, and as we were talking about, just the general idea of consumerism and to grow, 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 more, more, more. Like we have to spend, spend, spend. All of this lunacy that comes with an inflationary monetary system, where you can't have quality, you can't have, uh, you can't you can't stop, you can't slow down, you can't just make good things at an appropriate margin and sell them and fund your business that way. You always have to be doing more and more and more, buy, and it's crazy too. And listen, I've been trying to orange pill people on Bitcoin, which should be the easiest thing on the planet. Is like, hey, this literally outperformed every single investment you've ever made in your life. Oh, you're still not interested? Okay, I don't know what to say. So I can't even get people to buy Bitcoin,
Right.
and it's had the best financial track record of literally any asset. Well, not literally any. 99.999% of assets in the entire world, and I still can't get people to do that. But something else I try to convince people of is the consumerism and everything. You're an addict, like you're a drug
Yeah.
addict, and you go through withdrawals when you stop getting that stuff. But as I've never been a huge consumer guy, but I like to get my stuff or whatever. But as I've put myself on a Bitcoin standard, the joy I get from the stuff I actually want to buy, like when I step back and say, okay, I don't need all this crap, but like what are the things I genuinely want? What do I want to spend my sats on? And so when I get some soap from Soap Miner, or I get some wine from Ben Justman from Peony Lane, or I get some Oshi butter, and then I give it as a gift or whatever, I actually get excited. I actually enjoy those things coming because I know they're high quality. I know I'm going to enjoy them. And I actually made a conscious decision to be like, okay, I'm going to spend, I want this thing, I know it's good, as opposed to just check, check, check,
Yeah.
buy. Like it completely reframes how your brain is wired and the endorphin hits you get from shopping. I mean, a lot of people like are addicted to buying crap.
Yeah.
And I know convincing people that that's the case, or that stopping that is going to bring them more joy if they actually put in the time, effort to find things they truly want, and then get the joy of a good quality product actually showing up. I know that's
Well,
like
I
the
think that
toughest sell of all time, but
yeah, that's the way we're going to pill more people. I mean, I get what you're saying. I can try to talk people into it all the time, but if someone, tastes some Oshi butter, or they cook with some great ghee, or they have some of Ben Justin's wine, or they take a shower with some soap wine or stuff like that. Okay, how do I get that stuff? I want more of that. Well, you got to have Bitcoin to get that. Like that's probably a more effective way than trying to charm someone, or trying to convince someone logically, and tell them the history of all the monetary theory, and the Keynesian versus the Mies. And it's like, dude, nobody cares. Like, most people just don't care. Like, and we kind of live in a bubble in the Bitcoin world, and look, I'm here for it, but like, you know outside of that world, like, we have to find some way to connect with people, and you know high quality products, and products. I think people are craving these connections with the merchants, but they're not willing to go out in person. Everyone's lives is just so busy. So we've got the technology now, both on the monetary side and on the social side, to have people connect directly in this way that they're deeply craving. And then the reward is these products. I mean, you talk about being addictive. I'm addicted to Oshi butter now, right? Like, and I'm happy about it, right? Like, these, I just want
yeah,
better. I just want better addictions, man. Like,
yeah, right.
and that's what we're selling. And so how can we? I think we can. We've been trying to. Like, maybe the better way to put this is, the community's been trying to, like, convince people logically that, like, Bitcoin is the best money, or trying to, like, um, make better software products. And look, I'm all for it. Like, user experience is one of the best ways we're going to get to people. But at the end of the day, if you can get to someone's senses with a good product, and they're going to find the way to get to the money. Like, there's so many different ways you can back into Bitcoin, and I think this is one of the ones that's gonna actually connect with so many people. And that's kind of the mission of Conduit. And I think that mission is shared by all the people building in the space. Is it like, how do we get people to use Bitcoin as money? I'm not going to
Yep.
tell people to do it. I'm not going to force people to do it. I have to, like, find a way through their senses, through their emotions, through taste, smell, whatever, to get them to be like, oh shit, like this is better. Why is this better? And then they start going down the rabbit hole of like, okay, well, oh, if you change the incentives, blah blah blah. It's like, oh, now we're here. So,
I used to dread shaving because I would use soap. I've never used shaving cream. I don't know
yeah,
why it just doesn't work on my face. But I've always used soap, and my face would be so dried out, or like my lips would get destroyed when I did it, and I always hated it. And now I have Soap Miner use his soap, and it's like my face feels great after it, like
yeah,
refreshed, and I don't have any of that dry, crackling stuff. It doesn't like suck all the oil out of my pores, and so now I have no fear of shaving anymore. So I
excellent.
shave much more often now because of that. Truly, because I hated shaving so much. It completely like changed how I viewed shaving. So
Yeah,
that's just one example, and then I another one. And my aunt and uncle over in the summer, and it just so happened that was after I did the Oshi interview, and I bought some Oshi butter, and it was in the fridge, and I let everyone sample it. My aunt and uncle were like blown away. And they buy good food. I mean, they're high quality people. They get the grass fed stuff, the regenerative farming. They don't mess around with their food either, and they were just both blown away with how good the Oshi butter was. And then they asked me, how do I get more of this? And I'm like, well, you're going to have to go to this website, but you got to pay in Bitcoin. So,
and that's a we're,
if
we're
you,
we're creating a
yeah,
way cooler club that people want to be in. You
yeah,
know,
exactly.
hey, you got to have the currency to get in the club.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to have some high quality soap, some high
Yeah,
quality pecan butter, some high quality frozen snack or freeze dried snacks. Yeah.
yeah.
You better get in the club.
And then
So,
people be like, well, why are these products all sharing like this one currency? And you can start getting into, the values behind it and the philosophy behind it. And that's from there, we can start really orange pilling people. Um, the the philosophy that is shared, it's kind of this weird thing. You're like, well, it is just, protocol. It's, technology. It's, it's code, but it does seem to, you know, change incentives at a root level that make you change your behavior, somehow at the top. I don't claim to understand it, but I'll, I don't need to understand it when I try the products. Okay, they all have this one thing in common. I'm just going to go that direction.
yeah, well, I mean, look at our current fiat monetary system that we talk about a lot as Bitcoiners. People have no idea why they're doing half the stuff they are, why they're buying
Right.
so much crap, why they're uh, uh, high time preference, why they're making poor decisions, why they don't know, they don't even know why they can't afford a home. And so, like, there's all these things that just creating the right structure will create outcomes and symptoms and structures of society, of civilization, that people don't don't even really have a choice but to opt into better ways of living. And to me, that's such a cool part about it. I know we talk all the time about how Bitcoin's going to bring back lower time preference and improve all sorts of areas of life. The
Right.
classic Bitcoin fixes this mantra, but to your point, if we have these tools and have stuff like Conduit Market or Plebeian Market, where people can step in and be forced to get higher quality goods with better money, it almost takes care of itself, and that's what's so
Yeah.
cool about it.
All right. And the exciting part is this marriage of Nostr and Bitcoin to really get those philosophies out to more people. Like if I were to criticize Bitcoin, which is like probably a terrible thing to do on a show like the Bitcoin Business Podcast, but I
Hey,
would say that it was just a little bit too much of an exclusive club, kind of like, oh, well, if you don't get it, you're not going to get it kind of thing. It's like, well, there's another technology now that allows people to connect socially, and all of a sudden Bitcoin becomes this, like, I don't want to say the word secondary, but like, you can get on Nostr and then get your first zap and be like, oh, like, what is this? Oh, that went from that person to me directly with like no intermediary. Oh, that's cool. Oh, this whole thing works that way. Like, um, I think Nostr is going to help where Bitcoin was lacking in terms of the social element. And that's what makes it really, really, really exciting, because I think it helps Bitcoin kind of live its full potential rather than be this sort of exclusive club. And and honestly, like, one of the things I was worried about with Bitcoin's trajectory was, there is a potential future where it becomes a reserve currency, a store of value, but not used as a medium of exchange. And in that world, the people that hold the Bitcoin and control the Bitcoin can sort of recreate these fiat bubbles within their little kingdom. And we don't, like, we're talking about going from one master to another. Like, that's not the world that we want. So the more Bitcoin that is actually flowing as a medium of exchange, the harder it is for someone to sort of hoard it and gain control of it, or maybe nation states to hoard it, gain control of it, and sort of recreate the fiat system. Um,
well, I think
in sort of like a two-tiered, like, oh, you're allowed to have Bitcoin and everyone else is allowed to have this other thing that's kind of based on Bitcoin, but like we get to flex with it and do what we want. And when we screw up, it's kind of on you and not really on us. And that, like, that future is possible. And I think it's less possible if we increase the amount of actual medium exchange uh, usage of Bitcoin.
it's impossible, right? Like what you're talking about is okay, well we had this gold standard and then ostensibly the dollar was tied to gold and then everyone else figured out, oh, they've given out way more dollars than gold they have and I'm not going to be able to redeem my dollars for gold because there's too many claims on not enough assets. And what you're talking about is if a nation state, if a corporation, whatever, crazy world we end up in over the coming decades and centuries, if they're able to get a bunch of Bitcoin and then issue their own currency on top of it, then you have no sort of way of protecting yourself from the fractional reserve debasement, issuing more certificates than currency. But if you're just straight up using Bitcoin, no merchant, no one in their right mind is going to be like, give me one of those fractionally reserved
Right.
certificates.
Right.
I want the Bitcoin, and that's really the defense against that sort of centralization of the Bitcoin and then the issuing certificates on top of it is we just transact with each other in it. You can issue all the certificates you want, but if 95% of merchants have no interest in it, great. Okay, there'll be the dollar store equivalent or the state-run grocery store equivalent of like the USSR using the locality backed money or the locality's Bitcoin backed money, and then everyone also just be using Bitcoin, and that really is the protection against
No, and
even
yeah,
allowing that to happen. So,
ultimately, I believe in that future as somewhat inevitable as well. I suppose my concern, to refine it more, would be the path to how we get there, and how many people get freed and at what rate along that way. There's more painful routes, and there's less painful routes, um, and I just want to accelerate towards that, where it is sort of inevitable, rather than go through this sort of awkward interim period, because you can see they are trying to try to co-opt
of
it
course,
in a certain way, and they're
they believe
doing,
they're going to co-opt it. Like they
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 do.
think they think we're all suckers. They're
Yeah,
like all these Bitcoiners. They're the sucker at the table. They don't get it. We're Wall Street. We're big government.
yeah.
We're taking all the Bitcoin and then we're just going to run things the way we've run it forever. And I mean, Trump kind of said it right. Trump has no idea what he's talking about. But when he was at the the Bitcoin conference. He's like, "Have fun playing with your Bitcoins." Like, he believes that. He believes we're just a bunch of rubes
Yeah.
that are like playing around with this joke, and that the big boys, the adults, are going to step in, and it's just going to be their asset. And you plebs have fun with your little pennies over there. We're gonna be in charge of this.
Yeah.
Like
Meanwhile,
I
I
really
doubt
think.
most of these people actually know how to self-custody or something like that. But
Oh
that's a
no,
whole
yeah,
different thing. Yeah. Sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
no chance. But I mean, I really think I I think that was a deep insight to how him and the rest of these cretins view this. That
Right.
they'll take it over. Don't worry about it. We'll be in charge, just like everything else, and that'll be that.
Yeah, and then so like let's just skip the part where, they do have some level of control, and let's accelerate towards this just being used as a medium of exchange, and more and more people able to route around, that BS is better.
Of
That's just
course,
going
I
to be a
mean,
less painful future for more people.
I don't think it's any mistake that the samurai devs were taken down. I mean, that easily was on everyone's radar. The fact that that case was allowed to go forward is preposterous. That could have been stopped at any time by anyone in that administration that wanted to, but of course they didn't want to. And I'm sure they're being leaned on by all the big banks and all these other institutions and the ETF issuers because that's a competition to their business,
Right.
and they don't want that. So I, they are absolutely trying to go in that way, and I'm very white pilled that we're not going to let them do it. That we are going to keep building this out to what we're doing at Sovereign, getting businesses. The more people we can get to accept Bitcoin, the more pushback there's going to be if they try to
Exactly.
do any nonsense. And I'm not saying we need permission or should ask for permission. I don't believe in any of that crap. We should act permissionless, ignore what these people say. I'm sure running a node will be illegal one day. I'm
Yeah.
sure we're gonna be considered renegades or whatever. I don't care. I'm still gonna do it. And that should be the way we operate. And the more people that have that mindset that are willing to do that, the harder it's gonna be to for them to quote unquote enforce anything. So,
But, I mean, we do need to be strategic about, how we approach these things, and realize like where the power currently lies. And so how do we position, this movement? If we just, if we say it's just for all, uh, illegal goods, or rebels, or whatever, then, we're going to get targeted, according to, how we position ourselves. But, if we align ourselves with like, oh no, these are actually, quality products that everyday people want to use. This there's actually like some alignment that we might find with certain people that are in the administrations that are anti-monopolist, for example, or maybe they're anti corruption in terms of like, okay, well, we don't want all these petrochemicals in our food. Okay, we can all agree on that. There's people in government that can agree on that. So let's align ourselves with those people within the halls of power. It's probably a more effective strategy than just saying like, fuck the whole system, and we're gonna burn it all down. Like, I know shit, you're gonna get targeted if you do something like that. Like, let's be a little. My take, and I know everyone doesn't share this take, but like, let's be a little bit more strategic about how we position ourselves, and how we might influence the people in the halls of power to make decisions that are better for kind of all of us, and pull on the levers where we have them. There's a big sort of antitrust movement happening right now. Let's pull on that. There Nobody wants this shit in their food. Let's pull on that. Like we don't have to kind of be on attack mode, because that is going to elicit a response that's gonna unfortunately uh, put certain people in the spotlight, or under the crosshairs of the people in power. And obviously nobody wants to see that. So how can we leverage their own system against the people that would want to take away the rights and freedoms of people in this movement? Let's you know let's be a little bit more judo about this, if you will, or jujitsu. I would prefer.
Yeah, what I mean, I totally agree. I don't think it has to be a binary choice. I don't
Yeah,
think you're either in like the full anarcho, fuck the state, burn it all down, or the let's get in bed with, the
yeah,
Dennis
yeah.
Porters,
Why does
if
it
you
have to be
will.
so
Exactly.
exactly?
It's not a binary choice. It's both. It's we can choose individually to exercise our own sovereignty and autonomy, and at the same time be like, let's also push for our lawmakers to understand this better, to give us some leeway. It's like everything, right? It's Knott's versus Core. Which camp are you in? It's like, well, I think both of them are awful. So,
There you go. I'm with you on
not
that.
I shouldn't say awful. I think both are wrong on
Yeah,
this issue. Um,
that much we agree on.
that be, yeah, that being said, like we don't have to, and not everything is a one or a zero. It's that there's in betweens that can be pursued, and we should take both routes or no routes sometimes. And it's but we've just been so conditioned with, red team, blue
Yeah,
team, capitalist, communist, fascist, socialist, like just everything is, one versus the other, get in your camp, and it's just like it's just
yeah.
not how the world works.
Well,
So I'm
hopefully we're
totally with
changing
you.
that. Yeah, hopefully we're changing.
Yeah,
Open protocols sort of force people
yes,
to change that and force
exactly.
people to sort of cooperate in this awkward nuance that kind of sits in between the two poles. And that's to me that's the beautiful. I love nuance. I love those types of discussions. Like, yeah, but all right, let's think about the other side. And there has not, for some reason, and maybe it's to do with the money, maybe it's to do with the way our tech is set up, maybe it's to do with this or that. But for some reason, everything seems to be set up to be polarized right now. And so, if we can, at a foundational level, at a protocol level, um, implement technologies that force people to have more of those nuanced conversations, we're gonna make a lot more progress than if we sort of encourage the polarizing discussions. And again, that's what excites me about Nostr in particular, is I think it allows or forces that to happen on a technological level, specifically through kind of a more advanced version of social media.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, in my opinion, basically the only thing holding the United States together right now is trade. Um, the red team hates the blue team so much,
Yeah,
and the blue team hates the red team so much. They don't marry each other. They don't talk to each other. They don't even go on the social media platforms. Like there's an
that's
entire
insane.
social
Yeah,
media platform in Blue Sky where they're like, we don't want people from the other team on here. I mean, it's so crazy, but like that is the society we live in. The only reason people get on a train together, go to the same grocery store is because of trade, is
right.
because of the economic value um, being shared between people, and that's like the one that's kind of the final piece of glue, like holding this whole thing together, is the willingness to cooperate on trade and the ability to make that as open, as free as possible. I love your framing. I totally agree. I think it settles so many differences when you are engaged in actual commerce with someone else, and there's no
Yeah,
way you have the same opinions or views as the person on the other side of the table, but you want to coordinate economic trade. And listen, that's not to say we're going to live in some utopia. There's not going to be any homelessness and no crime. I don't believe in any of that crap. But like, it will significantly we'll turn the stove down from an 8 to like a 3. And
yeah.
if we can have these sort of open trade and open economic cooperation.
Well, I agree with you. Like that, at the end of the day, like that seems to be, even historically, that seems to be the thing that brings countries together, that brings powers together, is the mutual benefits of trade. And so I suppose like we're kind of I'm gonna loop it back to Nostr. It's like, let's take that trade and put it through Nostr where there are no fences. You can't create these sort of platform style fences. It's like, yo, we're on a protocol now, and you actually cannot fully insulate yourself. And there's some things you can do, but you cannot truly insulate yourself from the other side's view. And you might have to deal with that And I think on net, if everybody's going to deal with those slight discomforts of uh, the opposite person's view and have to contend with them, that those little battles that happen within everybody, the more of those that we can make happen, that's the thing that's going to kind of bring us back uh, to the center, bring us back at least, or make us less polarized. Not to say, yeah, nothing's going to be perfect, right? There's still going to be a spectrum. Like right now, it's just so spread out. You're separated from the other camp. That's when in the middle those conflicts really start to happen. We can kind of like hack our sort of redesign the social protocol around that. Let's get trade happening through Nostr, get more people interacting through Nostr. They're going to have to be contending with some things that they don't necessarily agree with at the outset, but they still need to be there. So they're going to have to figure out a way to deal with it. And that's going to be good for everybody, hopefully.
So many people need just step back, touch grass, as they say, and just focus on some more important things than everything you think is important that is not. So, all right, one thing I did want to touch on, and I was talking with uh gosh, now I'm forgetting who I was talking. I think it might have been Augie, who I had on the podcast recently. We're talking about how do we solve the delivery problem.
Mm.
So we still have kind of this centralized point of failure with the delivery systems, right? We rely on a UPS, we rely on a FedEx, and sometimes they screw stuff up. And also, we talk about being able to lean on an Amazon to get a book off there or something like that, or Apple Podcast to not put a podcast on there. Those are places where there's leverage. Well, you could just as easily see the government stepping in. I mean, for me, I live in Cook County. I can't get ammo delivered to my house. So, like, there's already a situation where the government's saying, we don't like this product and we're not going to allow anyone to ship to you there. And it's FedEx, UPS, USPS. They're not going to deliver it to my house here. So, what I was talking with Augie about was they're working on actually building like a mesh network of people to sort of do the
Interesting.
delivery and set something up where you're actually paying someone or even could be a service, but to your point, a reputable service to locally um, more well known to you as opposed to just some big centralized entity like a FedEx or a UPS or DHL to do the deliveries. I'm curious, have you had any of those conversations? Talked to anyone about that? Ever thought about this? Or
Yeah, I definitely thought about it. People, this is a very common question, and but to be completely honest with you, I have not been too focused on it. It's a really tough problem economically, and it seems like the path to solving that involves increasing costs, at least in the short term, to the consumer. And that might be what we have to do. We're not specifically focused on that. We've been more focused, like the idea I've been more focused on anyway is increasing sort of the attack surface. There are multiple shipping providers. They're all kind of, in bed with the same people, but at least we do have, UPS, FedEx, even Amazon fulfillment to a certain degree, and USPS, at least in the US. I honestly, I don't know how things work in other countries. I know a little bit about Canada because that's where I'm from, but um, for at least there's like four competitive providers, let's say at this point, keeping costs low for the consumer. So if we can sort of increase the attack surface and use as many of them as possible, that's kind of I think the way to scale, but that doesn't solve a lot of the problems that I know like these good folks are trying to solve, which is there's also privacy concerns. There's there's centralization. Like if someone can't ship through a certain provider, like that's a huge hit to their business, and that is a problem. I don't have a great answer for that. I know there's people working on it, and I've met a few of them. I've talked to a few people about it, but that's not specifically what we're focused on yet. We'll see. Like I think if we get enough runway to be able to tackle a problem like that, then we're doing pretty well as a
I
movement.
totally agree. I think the general consensus and sort of where my head is at is it's a Herculean effort
Yeah,
and it is unsolvable right now. There is no good solution. And in my opinion, and I really appreciate what those guys are doing, and I would
yeah,
by all means support that. And um, would happily pay for some transportation of stuff. I already know I'm paying a premium for quality, better made stuff, and what the merchants have to go through, what the creators have to go through. They're not operating in economies of scale. Most of these guys are doing a lot of this stuff by hand, and I appreciate that. I'm willing to pay more for that, but as I look at this, it just seems like something that would just take decades to build out. And that's not to say we shouldn't do it. That's not to say we shouldn't start now. And the old building cathedrals metaphor, I think that's kind of what we're looking at when it comes to redoing transportation, localizing transportation, um, and getting something like that. But at the same time, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's so many of these freight brokers out there, and there is sort of a decentralized network of transportation. I guess it's just how do you tap into it? How do you get the connections? How do you get the ins, and then
right.
start coordinating that?
Yeah, and how do you
And
make it worth their time too? Usually
yeah,
that ends up coming with additional cost. And I think like at least for us right now, like one of the selling points is, besides all the philosophical stuff that's obvious to you and me, but one of the big selling points to regular people is like, how can we actually reduce your costs because you're not paying this fee and that fee and whatever. As you start to like go to solve this problem, it seems to at least temporarily increase their costs, which is, not something that we can kind of like start out the pitch with. But that being said, like I don't want to be too pessimistic about what could happen. I'm just, yeah, not personally involved with it. I mean, shipping and fulfillment, like that does seem to lend itself well to like a protocol style design rather than, these various platforms. It could definitely happen, but yeah, that is a complicated problem, and it also touches on like there's a lot of regulations and laws around shipping and mail and different things, and um, it's just kind of more dangerous territory in my mind to get involved in. And uh, yeah, not personally going to touch it, but I'm glad other people are.
I hear you, man. It's one of those things that it just seems so daunting.
Yeah.
Um, just not that it's not overcomable one day, but that just
Yeah.
seems
Well,
that seems like it's gonna be a tough one.
what I'm kind of excited for is like just to get like if you think about where Amazon might go, I don't even think they make the most money off of Amazon.com, for example, where their bread and butter was Amazon Web Services, and also I think their bread and butter might be in the future. Obviously I don't know Andy Jassy personally, but he was the AWS guy. Like he sees that like being kind of the back end services provider is the way to make more money for his shareholders or whatever. Um, so it seems like their fulfillment centers are going to be. I highly doubt I'm going to use open source, but that's not the word because that's not what they're going to do. But they do want to be the back end service for a lot of people because they're realizing that like okay, this fulfillment piece is something that um, might be useful beyond just Amazon.com, and they're really pushing to make that more accessible. Obviously, they're incentivizing people to use Amazon.com, but I think he realizes that the way that they made a ton of money was through um, Amazon Web Services, and he's got that type of mentality to be like the infrastructure provider, kind of fall to the background, especially as these antitrust uh, actions are starting to happen. So all that being said, like I'm not, obviously not a huge fan of anything that they do, but bigger picture is that if we can incentivize multiple providers to be competitive with each other. One of those competitive vectors might be, you know, um, freedoms and privacy. That those can become selling points. That's how Apple, like, I think, still retains a lot of people. Is they at least promise. We don't know if it's true or not, but they at least promise that they're providing a certain level of privacy. And if we can make those competitive vectors, like if we vote with who we choose to use as a service provider based on those metrics, then hopefully they'll listen. We have to become decentralized markets in general have, and the values that come along with it has to become a big enough movement for it to matter. But that's kind of like, maybe it's a cop out answer, but that's the direction that I think I would like us to go to at least somewhat alleviate that issue.
Oh, I could see a situation where you have a Nostr marketplace for your goods, and then you have a Nostr marketplace for your deliveries. Like, there's no reason freight companies couldn't compete to deliver your goods on basically a the same Nostr protocol you're doing for the merchants who are competing for your sats for their goods. Why couldn't you have delivery companies doing the same thing? And what's cool is you could have it built where it's just an opt-in. Like,
Yeah,
hey, here's another opportunity, you shipping company, you freight company. Here's a place for you to plug in and start bidding on people's delivery cost.
yeah,
And um I could envision something like that. That would be pretty cool, to where you have hundreds or thousands of freight companies on this platform bidding to deliver your product. I could see
yeah.
I could
Or
see
I
something
mean,
like that. Yeah.
they're sort of bidding to get access to people that have these currencies, right? Like, in general, like, one of the things that you would sell to a new, or you would pitch to a new merchant, why should I get on here, is, oh, well, there's all these people out there who are using this permissionless money, or who hold this permissionless money, are looking for places to spend it so that they can live their lives on this standard. Oh, do you want access to that? Of course I do. And then, so, same thing might happen on the shipping side. There's all this economic activity that we've created um, on the, using permissionless money and permissionless protocols. Do you want access to that? Like, do you want, like, to tap into that market? It's a very profitable market. These people, tend to manage their money well. They're wealthier than the average person. That, they were smarter. They were ahead of the game. Do you want access to that? Of course you do. So, like, how do you get in? Well, here's the cost of admission. You're gonna have to, like, market to those people. You're gonna have to, like, do things with your brand that those people value, and that's how we're gonna sort of, like, steer the tanker uh, towards the world that we want to live in. That's at least the strategy, that the type of thinking that I tend to lean towards.
I agree. I mean, it's just there's so many opportunities, and it just it's very it's very cool being at the beginning of this and not knowing where things are going, and being able to get into Bitcoin, quote unquote, early. And but at the same time, I kind of do want to fast forward 20 years and be like, what
Same
was
here, man.
built?
I can't wait. I don't want to be
What did
old
we
for this all to take
create?
off.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm jealous of. We just had a son earlier this year, and I'm kind
Oh,
of jealous of
congrats.
him. Like, yeah, thank you. Like, when he's in his 20s, what's going to be available to him, and what's the world he's going to be living in? I'm jealous he's going to get to experience a lot of that stuff. So, but
Yeah, I mean, selfishly, I'd like to be alive long enough to experience some of it myself. But I mean,
yeah,
that's why we do it. Is so that
of
some
course,
people that
of
come
course.
after us could experience uh, the world that we envision. And I mean, that, to me, that's very motivating as
Yeah,
well.
that's
That's why we do it. Yeah,
that's the whole reason we're doing it,
yeah,
is to leave something better than when we came. And it's the same reason many of us leave our fiat jobs to come work on this, because we
yeah,
want to leave a legacy, and leave this place better than just have my son to go work at some bank
yeah.
like I did. So
That's the dream.
Work at a bank?
No, get
Oh,
out of
okay,
your
yeah.
fiat job.
No, of course, yeah. I'm messing. The
Yeah.
dream is definitely not to work. So, um, awesome, Eric. Well, okay. So, I another thing too. Do you have a coffee?
We used to.
Or
Yeah,
you
we
used to? Okay, you're not
that is
doing that
how
anymore.
we started. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
we decided to focus more on just the pure tech side of things. But when we originally got
Okay.
involved in the movement, we started Conduit Coffee. I like to
Yes.
just feel what it feels like to be a merchant in the situation um, that that we're servicing, and I think like we will reboot Conduit Coffee, or we're thinking about like Conduit merch or something, like just something at a baseline, simple, even if it's not necessarily profitable, but so that we can feel what it's like to like use our own tools. I think that's like a
I mean,
kind of like invaluable feedback loop that most people should do. But right now, we've kind of closed that down because it's just more headache than what it was worth. You want to have quality product. We're coffee nerds, and we have a certain uh, time after roasting that's only acceptable that I would ever share, something like that. So if you're not moving enough product, like you can't keep that cycle where you want it to be. So um, maybe merch makes more sense, get a longer shelf life and things like that. But we're going to have some sort of a store, but right now we're just 100% focused on getting the market in a state where it's completely interoperable and usable, and then the merchant portal up and running.
if there's one thing Bitcoin and Nostr folk like, it's merch. So I guarantee if and when the time comes that there's a ton of merchants on there, a ton of commerce, people will happily. But
Yeah,
I remember people, and even now I occasionally see it. I remember people walking around with eBay gear all the
dude.
time.
Like when it's
So
cool, when the brand is cool, and they're
yeah,
doing something innovative that people like, that it's increasing people's freedoms, like that's a cool branding thing. Like people want to walk around wearing that. Like to me, that's very aspirational. I'd love to see people walking around, wearing Conduit shirts, Conduit hats, Conduit whatever, but to me, that's a testament to like, we're doing the right thing. When people stop wearing the shirts and they start calling you like, the big evil, whatever, then, you've lost the plot, right? Nobody wants to wear an eBay shirt or a Google shirt or whatever
yes.
nowadays. Like, oh, that's kind of a signal, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but eBay used to be cool, and I don't know. People used to have hats and shirts and all
A
sorts
lot
of
of these
stuff.
companies
Even Google
used to be
too.
cool. Yeah,
Google
Google
too.
Google
Yeah,
used to be cool as
yeah,
hell. I mean,
yeah.
talk about the open source movement. I mean, if you look through some of the foundational technologies that the web was built on, is like Google was a huge part of that. Apple was a huge part of that. Even Microsoft in some cases was a huge part of it. I think I made a post about that recently. It's just like you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like these companies have all gone through arcs, but ultimately, it seems like they've been somewhat corrupted by bad incentives. And maybe we can bring a few of them back. Maybe we can re-incentivize open source being the most profitable thing to do. That How do we do that? I think we got to vote with our capital. We got to get people voting with their capital for those technologies to win, and just get people to keep choosing that over and over and over again. And then those companies will pivot. Like to me, it would be a win if like Amazon all of a sudden turned into a giant NIP 99 marketplace. Like, okay, we want like what? Let's do something else next. I don't think that's ever going to happen because they're definitely not
Oh, I
incentivized
don't
to
either.
do that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like I'm not like I honestly don't think anybody in the movement is here to like be the next monopolist, right? Like that's not the world we're trying to create. Um, but it would be a huge win if any big corporation went back to their roots and was maybe even strong armed to going back to the roots and open sourcing foundational technologies. Like that's how we got here. That is really how we got here. And we're trying to sort of reboot that.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, we saw a little glimmer of hope earlier this year when the open AI, the not open AI, but the open source AI came out competing with open
Yeah,
AI. Uh, um,
ironically from China.
very,
Yeah.
yeah, yes, exactly. Ironically, from China, ironically against the one thing that was promised to be open source and
Yeah.
is completely closed sourced and needs like $207 billion just to survive. But um, that was a nice little glimmer of hope, was to see something like that come out and just completely disrupt everything. And all the typical stuff sold off, and it was cool to see that. And
Yeah.
so there's just no reason we can't keep doing that. And that that kind of worked out because AI was so front and center, and it was such a big announcement, and it hit all the headlines and everything else. But that's going on constantly in the Nostr space and the Bitcoin space, and just the open source space. Um, even as a business, we're trying to convert everything over to Nextcloud and use that instead of these big centralized platforms. And so the stuff's going on out there. To your point that you made much earlier in the conversation about the UX, that's ultimately what's going to draw people in, is good user experience. And once it's as smooth as its competition, there's just no reason most people probably wouldn't choose that. So
And I mean, there's no reason why one of those watershed moments can't happen with Nostr.
sure.
Like all of a sudden, company X decides to integrate Nostr, and Wall Street will eventually figure out what that means. It means that like that company has just lowered the fences for everybody. Oh shit, like which business models don't matter anymore. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna sell that. Like with there's a parallel with like BitChat, for example. You've got like something shows the potential of Bluetooth mesh as like a primary communications method. Well, I wouldn't invest in AT&T after seeing some shit like that. Like, like that same
Yeah.
same thing could happen for like all of a sudden you're like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to invest in Twitter. Like after seeing what I've seen, like I wouldn't in the first place, but like if that were the case, there's probably so many zombie companies out there that like once one of these watershed moments happens with these open source or these protocol based technologies, like their whole business model is just done. And
Well,
yeah, I don't want to celebrate anybody's like downfall because it's not really my style, but um, investors are going to do what investors are going to do. They're just going to act logically and sell the things that just don't matter anymore.
well, I think I'm of the belief that OpenAI is dead right now. They're a zombie company. I mean, they said they needed a bailout, and then they said no, we don't want a bailout, and then they came back and said, oh, actually, we probably do need a bailout. Like they're not a profitable business. They will
Interesting.
not they will not survive without fleecing the taxpayers via inflation or taxation to subsidize their business. They cannot survive on their own, and they're trying to dress it up and make it sound like that's not the case, but it is the case. And so to me, that's a zombie business. That's a business that is misallocating capital,
Absolutely.
and someone should be out there doing it better. So it's, in my opinion, it's already happening. Like it's
Yeah.
just people haven't realized it yet. And unfortunately, the government has the big money printer machine, and they can subsidize this stuff, and the market knows that, and so people aren't going to divest because they're probably going to get
Yeah.
the bailout, and
They
that
they want this show
seems
to
like a
keep
good
going.
investment for me. Right,
Well, yeah, I mean,
exactly.
our
So
some stupid amount of the economy right now is just AI capex,
yeah, oh yeah,
which like is definitely not sustainable. But maybe they can't afford to turn that off, and that's just the direction we're headed. But yeah,
it can.
that's
Yeah,
incredibly wasteful, unfortunately.
yeah,
But also you know if that collapses, there's a lot of pain for a lot of people there. So I can see why they would try to keep it going. But eventually it's got to come down. Yeah,
well,
better have your
and
Bitcoin.
too many donors
Yeah,
involved in the pain, and
yeah,
these people want to get reelected so they can steal more from us. So,
yeah.
but anyways, I digress. Eric, before we wrap here, anything else you want to point people to, talk about, um,
Yeah. No, I mean, I got a
anything?
few people I want to shout out to. Like I mentioned, Conduit, Plebeian, Shopstr, Cypherspace. There's a few more people in the group that are at least thinking about integrating NIT99. You got Bullish Bitcoiner. He's got
Bullish is the
his
man.
yeah he rocks. He's doing his farmers markets, and he's got this new thing called Take My Sats. And I'm the one out there, evangelizing the knit 99 bit, and so he's in the group now, and we're convincing him to, somehow integrate listings there. There's another guy out there that I want to shout out, Low Timer. He's got something called ichno.com, which he's got a basket right now, the Wag Me basket for the holidays. So he's
I bought
he's
one yesterday.
oh
I
fuck
got
yeah,
one
okay,
for I
I gotta
got
get
one for
one.
my dad.
Yeah,
Yeah. My
and
dad and my stepmom sent it out to him. Yeah.
yeah, we even got a guy in there, Alejandro, who's doing something called Dine Direct, and he's gonna integrate NIP 99 somehow as well. So like there's just like there's a bunch of us here. Again, like obviously like I support our own brand Conduit, but like it's not just about us. Like it's about all these people that are gonna like work collectively, trying to make this movement happen. So I encourage people to visit all these sites and give feedback and interact with people on Nostr and encourage the dev teams to implement features that they want to see, and that's going to help us. Like all the feedback helps to all these people, I think.
Will say I touched on it earlier, but it's just such a more enjoyable shopping experience. You will actually get value out of the stuff you're buying. You'll feel good about it. You'll
Agreed.
feel connected to the vendor. You'll know how your stuff was made, and it just truly it's a much more satiating, mentally satiating experience than just your normal routine of shopping being boring, mundane, and almost pathological to a point. So,
Great
um,
way to put it.
I would encourage people to actually check it out, try it. It's a rewarding experience. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah. Eric, thank you and everyone else building in this space. Really appreciate all the work everyone's doing. And as always, you can find us on X or LinkedIn at Sovereign X at Sovereign on there. I'm Plebeian on Nostr. And you can also check us out at Sovereign on Nostr as well. I do a horrible job of running the account, as I note on here every week, but I'm trying to do better and I do respond to people. It's like the one thing I do. So if you reach out, I will actually respond to you. So please do that. Eric, thank you so much for your time today. And until next week, we'll see you then.
For having me, man. This is super fun.
Awesome. You got it.